Hey guys, so in this video I'm going to go ahead and do my review video on the My Little Pony Season 6 premiere. Alright, so this episode first starts off with Starlight Glimmer trying to find the library in Twilight's castle, and also trying to find her way around the castle. But at least she found the throne room in the finale, like when Twilight was just coming back from Camelot from that presentation she gave. But yeah, but anyway, so now first I'd like to start off with, you'll notice that Starlight's main style is a bit different, and I personally liked Starlight's old main style better. But anyway, so once Starlight finds Twilight's library, Twilight tells Starlight that she's trying to find out that she's trying to find out what her first friendship lesson should be. However, Starlight finds out that Twilight still has a ways to go before she can get to Starlight's friendship lesson. Then after the intro, Starlight was surprised at how much work Twilight has as the Princess of Friendship. And so in the next scene, that Starlight decides to meet the others in the throne room, which I don't know why Starlight had to ask, because she found it just perfectly in the Season 5 finale. But anyway, so Starlight heads into the throne room with the rest of the main six, who are waiting to go to the Crystal Empire. And then at one point, Spike comes in and tells Starlight and some of the rest of the main six about Spike when he... So, sorry, sometimes I stutter a little bit, but yeah, Spike came in and told everyone what he found on doing his research on the Crystal Ink, and which is a special event that takes place in the Crystal Empire later on in this episode. But anyway, and that's where Starlight went back into the library and asked Twilight about the Crystal Empire. And that's where Twilight told Starlight what her first friendship lesson was. And that's where Twilight told her that she had three options to choose from. One was from the Crystal Empire, and the two other ones had to do with the CMCs, and one where the Griffins live. Twilight, however, also told Starlight that the Crystal Empire is where Starlight's old friend Sunburst lives. However, I thought he lived in Camelot because in the Season 5 finale, she said he moved to Camelot once he got his cutie mark. But anyway, so after Twilight gave Starlight her options, she had a really hard time trying to decide which one to choose from. But then at one point, Twilight got a note from Shining Armor saying that he's now a father, which also meant Twilight is now an aunt. So that's where you see Twilight and her friends heading off to the train station to the Crystal Empire, which also means Starlight will have to reunite with Sunburst for her first friendship lesson. And I'm really glad Starlight got to choose that for her first friendship lesson, because at first I didn't think Starlight was going to ever see Sunburst again ever since he moved to Camelot. But anyway, so when Twilight and her friends finally arrived at the Crystal Empire, they finally come across Shining Armor, but when they come across him, he looks all exhausted because they really hadn't slept at all since they had the baby. And that's where Twilight realized it wasn't so smart to bring Starlight to the Crystal Empire for her friendship lesson. And so that's when Twilight and Shining Armor head to the castle while Spike and Starlight try and find Sunburst. And then at one point, as they look for Sunburst, Starlight finds a statue of Spike since he saved the Crystal Empire way back in Season 3. And that's why a lot of Crystal Ponies really like Spike a lot, and that's where Starlight wanted to hear how it happened. And I think Starlight was really wanting to stall some time or kill some time to try, because I guess she didn't feel very comfortable yet with trying to reunite with Sunburst. But anyway, so meanwhile, Twilight finally meets the baby, which happens to be an Alicorn. I'm sure a lot of us knew that long before this episode came out because of that little spoiler in the short little trailer. But I'm not gonna lie, that new baby is pretty adorable. however, that put the main six in shock. Even Celestia and Luna were quite surprised as well. But they also realized how powerful she was. And they also mentioned an important event called the Crystalling, which I had mentioned before. That was an event they had to get ready for. And Shining Armor also had to do his part to get ready for it as well. And that's where the main six agreed to help out with the baby. So meanwhile, Spike finally finishes up his story on how he saved the Crystal Empire. So then after the story, then they continue their search for Sunburst. And then they finally find him. And they both seemed really nervous when they finally reunited with him. I was honest, like I said, I was honestly expected to see them being more excited, actually, about seeing each other again. But they still managed to try and catch up a little bit since it's been a long time since they've seen each other. But like I said, I was really kind of expecting them to give a big hug since they were really good friends back then. But yeah, so anyway, but she's still having a hard time. Starlight still had a hard time trying to accomplish what Twilight wanted her to do. Alright, and so meanwhile, the three princesses try and get the crystalling started. However, Shining Armor still didn't feel ready because of how tired he still was. And that's where Rarity, Fluttershy, Artie, and AJ try to help Shining Armor with his part in the crystalling. So meanwhile, and then you get a chance to see Twilight and Pinkie taking care of the baby, which was really hard, but then you get to see Starlight and Sunburst catch up a little more. And Starlight didn't want to tell Sunburst about the cruel things she did in Season 5. My guess is that could be one thing she was nervous about, is trying not to tell Sunburst what she did in Season 5. So apparently they still weren't having any luck with what they were trying to do. See, yeah, and meanwhile, I know I keep saying meanwhile a lot. It's just that there are two different situations going on at once. But Rarity did do one thing to help Shining Armor by brushing his messy mane. And then the baby finally arrives while flying with Pinkie, holding on to her, trying to get a hold of her. Then at one point she stops flying with Pinkie holding on to her, but then for some reason that made her cry, which ended up breaking the Crystal Heart. And that was really bad for the Crystal Empire, and not only could they not do that special ceremony, and this kind of made me think back to the season premiere for some reason. But anyway, like I said, not only could they not do that ceremony, but that also meant another big storm was about to cover, or was about to cover the Crystal Empire. But anyway, so in part 2, they all talked about what's going to happen while Spike and Starlight try to accomplish their goal with Sunburst. And apparently Starlight finally got to the point where she wanted to finally back out. So meanwhile, the princesses finally decided to fly up to the cold storms to clear them out, while Twilight and her friends decided to do their part to help the Crystal Empire as well. But they also had to watch over the baby as well. So, and then later on, Spike and Starlight realized how cold it was. So that's where Spike